Welcome to Mindset Matters Book Club YouTube channel. Please subscribe and like to hear new book summaries.
Today, though, we're doing something a little different.
We are. Today, we're undertaking a dedicated deep dive into a book that I think fundamentally reshapes how we view success and achievement.
It really does. It challenges one of the most deeply ingrained myths in our culture.
Myth of the natural.
Exactly. The idea that some people are just born with the software for brilliance already installed.
And the book we're dissecting is Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance by the research psychologist Angela Duckworth.
That's the one. And our mission today is to really extract her central, I'd even say revolutionary insight.
Which is?
That what we ultimately accomplish may depend far more on this dedicated combination of passion and perseverance than on, any amount of innate raw talent.
We're looking for the secret sauce of achievement.
And spoiler alert, it tastes a lot like effort.
And the personal story behind the author's discovery is just the perfect place to start. It really encapsulates the whole idea.
It does. Duckworth grew up in a household where intelligence, specifically innate intelligence, was prized above, well, pretty much everything else.
Her father was a scientist.
A brilliant scientist, and he was obsessed with talent. He was constantly measuring his kids against, Einstein or Marie Curie.
That's a high bar.
An impossible bar.
Yeah.
Duckworth talks about how throughout her whole childhood, her father would often remind her, sometimes just out of the blue, that she was no genius.
Wow.
So this focus on a fixed innate ability was just the air she breathed. She didn't even test high enough for the gifted program in 3rd grade.
And yet, fast forward a few years, and Duckworth, the girl who was told again and again she didn't have that spark, goes on to win a MacArthur Fellowship.
The Genius Grant, as it's often called.
The irony is just staggering.
It's a stunning piece of irony that really anchors the entire book. She won one of the highest honors for intellectual prowess for discovering that, essentially, innate genius is wildly overrated compared to sheer sustained effort.
She shifted the entire spotlight of achievement away from potential and squarely onto application.
And her own life became Exhibit A for her own theory.
So let's talk about this quality she developed, this thing she calls grit. Let's unpack that because it's a lot more nuanced than just, working hard.
Right. She defines it as a ferocious determination, but she's very specific that this determination has 2 critical dimensions that have to work together.
Okay, so the first one is what most people think of.
It is. The first dimension is perseverance. It's being unusually resilient, hardworking, having that never give up attitude when you hit a wall, even when the work is boring or frustrating or even painful. It's stamina.
But the second part is where it gets really interesting. That's passion.
And this is so key. It's not passion in the sense of some intense, fleeting enthusiasm. It's knowing in a deep, directional way what you want.
So like a compass.
A compass you stick with. It's having one singular, high-level goal and sticking to it consistently over years, even decades. It's endurance and focus all in one.
Because if you don't have that direction,
you're just spinning your wheels. You might be hardworking, but you're jumping from interest to interest every year. You might get some momentary success, but you never accumulate the deep compounding skills you need for real excellence.
So you need both, the stamina and the focus.
You need both.
So in our deep dive today, we'll first explore the really startling research that pulls grit and talent apart.
And then we'll spend a good amount of time on the 4 psychological assets Duckworth identifies that help grit grow: interest, practice, purpose, and hope.
These 4 assets are basically the engine room of enduring success.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, let's jump right into the research. The place where Duckworth first saw this fundamental disconnect between talent and just pure stick-to-itiveness.
It was at the United States Military Academy at West Point.
Which is, by any measure, one of the most elite and demanding environments you could possibly imagine.
Oh, absolutely. To even get in, you need top SAT scores, amazing grades, a congressional nomination, and you have to pass this brutal fitness assessment.
And the admissions staff there, they compile all this data into something they call the whole candidate score, right?
Oh.
The WCS.
Right. The WCS is West Point's absolute best quantified guess at an applicant's talent and their potential for success.
So if the myth of the natural, of innate talent were true, you'd expect the cadets with the highest WCS scores to just breeze through, especially during the toughest part.
That's exactly what you'd expect. And that expectation is precisely what the data just completely shattered.
And the toughest initial phase is this 7-week program called Beast Barracks.
Beast Barracks. It is physically and psychologically brutal, and that's by design. It's meant to strip away your civilian identity and forge this absolute commitment to the mission.
I mean, we're talking about severe sleep deprivation, right?
Relentless physical exercise, constant psychological stress, just high demand, high stress interactions 204/7. It's exhausting, it's boring, it's often cold, and it's deliberately frustrating.
So under that kind of extreme pressure, you'd think that's where talent would really shine. It should protect the people who are most prepared.
Logic would say so. But the stunning finding was that the whole candidate score did not reliably predict who would drop out.
At all.
Not reliably. In fact, those who voluntarily quit during that brutal 7 weeks and those who stayed and succeeded had statistically indistinguishable WCS scores.
Okay, I have to pause on that for a second. West Point takes the absolute top of the top, people who already excel at everything, and then finds that their best measure of talent is useless for predicting who survives the first big test.
It failed spectacularly because the WCS measures aptitude, raw talent, but Beast Barracks measures commitment and emotional endurance. The cadets who stayed weren't necessarily the fastest runners or the ones with the highest math scores. They were the ones who, when they were freezing and sleep deprived and getting yelled at for the 1,000th time, chose to take one more step.
Their internal commitment, their grit was just higher.
Exactly. And Duckworth proved this directly. In 2004, she gave her new grit scale to over 1,200 incoming cadets on their second day of Beast.
And the results?
Decisive. The grit scores had almost no relationship to the whole candidate scores, which confirms that talent and grit are, well, they're separate things. They don't predict each other.
But grit did predict who would stay.
It turned out to be an astoundingly reliable predictor of who made it through Beast, year after year after year.
So the single most powerful predictor of success in the face of that kind of adversity wasn't quantifiable talent, but this internal ferocious determination.
Right. Talent might get you admitted, but only grit gets you through the hard parts.
And that realization, that talent is no guarantee of grit, became the fundamental idea for the rest of the book.
It's the moment where potential stops being the focus and application, what you do with it, really begins.
You know, this insight was actually something Duckworth had already kind of grasped intuitively when she was a 7th grade math teacher.
That's right. Like a lot of educators, she initially just assumed the quick studies, the students who got concepts instantly, would be the ones to dominate the class.
The ones who could solve the problem in their head while everyone else was still writing it down.
She expected them to be the straight-A students, but the reality was a lot messier. She found that some of those very able students, the ones always praised for being so quick, they earned lackluster grades, or even worse.
Why do you think that was?
Well, their talent almost became a distraction. They'd get bored waiting for others, they didn't feel the need to take detailed notes because the immediate stuff was easy, and so they sometimes just stopped applying effort. They assumed their natural ability would just carry them through.
And meanwhile, she saw a different group emerge.
She noticed the overachievers. These were the kids who might have struggled at first, who needed to see a problem worked out a couple of times.
But they were the ones who always came to class prepared.
Always prepared, always asking the seemingly simple questions, always seeking extra help during lunch. Their steady, repeated, intense hard work, their sustained effort, translated directly into better grades.
There's that great story about her student, David Luong.
Yes. He wasn't in the accelerated track. He didn't have the highest test scores coming in.
But he had that hunger.
He had that hunger. He consistently turned in perfect homework, aced every single quiz, and he politely asked for harder assignments when he finished early. She saw that consistency and realized his initial placement was totally irrelevant.
He didn't have innate talent, she said. He had industriousness.
Exactly. She was so sure of him, she actually insisted he be moved to the accelerated class.
And his experience there just proves the point even further. It wasn't easy for him.
No, he hit bumps. He told Duckworth he got a B in geometry and even a D on his first test in another advanced class.
But how he reacted is the key.
It's everything. He didn't have that fixed mindset reaction of, oh, I failed, I guess I'm not a math person. Instead, he immediately framed it as a tactical problem.
What do I need to do differently?
Precisely. He sought out the teacher, he figured out what specific changes he needed to make to his study routine, to his approach. Aptitude does not guarantee achievement, application does.
This all leads to the fundamental theory that guides her work. The mechanical reason why effort matters so much more than talent.
Yes, she argues that effort factors into the achievement equation not once, but twice. It effectively squares its own importance.
Okay, this is the centerpiece of the argument. Let's walk through it.
She lays out two simple formulas. The first one is about how you build skills. It's talent x effort, skill.
Okay, so talent is like a multiplier on your effort.
Exactly. Talent determines how quickly your skills improve when you put in the effort. If you're a natural at the piano, every hour of practice improves your skill faster than for someone less talented.
But you still need the hours. You still need the effort. Talent is just potential without the work.
Exactly. Now, the second formula is about what you do with that skill. It's skill x effort, achievement.
Ah, so effort comes in again.
It comes in again. Achievement is the result, the books you actually write, the races you actually win. You take the skill you've built and you apply effort again to make it productive.
So effort is counted twice.
It's counted twice. Once to build the ability, and a second time to apply that ability productively.
Wait, if effort is squared like that, does that mean raw talent is almost irrelevant if the effort is high enough?
That is precisely the point.
No.
A person who is twice as talented as another, but only half as hardworking, might reach the same skill level over time.
But they'll produce dramatically less.
Dramatically less achievement because their effort in that second step, the application, is so low. Talent is just the rate of learning. It's not the final destination.
This makes so much sense of why you see these highly lauded, prolific people who just reject the label genius.
Like the novelist John Irving.
Right. He's seen as one of the great storytellers, but he explicitly said he was not a natural.
Irving is the quintessential striver. He recognized his own lack of innate fluency, and he decided he had to take his lack of talent seriously. He understood that to do anything really well, you have to overextend yourself.
And his main technique for overextending himself was rewriting.
Relentlessly. He famously said he spends more time revising a novel than he takes to write the entire first draft. This isn't just a little editing.
No, it's an agonizing, granular application of effort to polish and refine until the final work appears effortless.
And his sheer output, the volume of work he's produced, is a testament to that. Sheer effort made his perceived lack of talent completely manageable and led him to mastery.
It's the difference between waiting for a spontaneous burst of creativity and launching a professional, disciplined campaign of creation.
Will Smith said something similar. He said, "Where I excel is ridiculous, sickening work ethic."
He said, "I'm not afraid to die on a treadmill. I will not be outworked, period."
That statement just captures the dual nature of effort perfectly. It's the consistent, sickening work ethic applied both to building the skill learning to act and then applying it, filming the movie.
Talent creates the potential, but that double-factored effort is what converts it into real, lasting achievement.
So if grit is the engine, the next logical question is, how do we build it?
Right. And Duckworth identifies 4 psychological assets that gritty people have, and, crucially, they tend to develop in a specific order, almost like a syllabus for success.
And we have to start with the foundation, asset number 1, which is interest.
Which leads to the development of that enduring passion we talked about.
Yes, and this asset is so often misunderstood because, like we said earlier, Duckworth's definition of passion isn't about that immediate intensity, that flash of excitement.
It's about consistency over time.
Exactly. She has that great line, "Enthusiasm is common, endurance is rare."
And that distinction is so important because our culture is constantly telling us to follow your passion.
Which implies that passion is this singular pre-existing thing you just have to discover, probably by thinking about it really hard.
Right, like looking for it under the couch cushions.
And Duckworth's research just completely refutes that. The data shows interests are not sudden magical revelations you find through introspection. They are actively constructed, developed, and deepened through interaction with the world.
And this happens over 3 necessary stages. Let's get into those, starting with the first one, triggering.
Interests first have to be triggered by some interaction with the outside world. You can't develop a passion for coding if you never touch a computer.
Or for ceramics if you never walk into a pottery studio.
Exactly. The world has to present you with an opportunity. Think of the famous potter Warren Mackenzie. He only took a ceramics class in college because all the painting classes were full.
A total accident.
A total accident. That interaction was the trigger for his life's work.
That's a huge lesson for anyone trying to find their direction. You have to cast a wide net and try things, because the thing that clicks might not be what you expect.
Right. But once it's triggered, that initial spark has to be actively developed. That's the second stage.
Because initial interests are fragile.
They're fleeting and shallow. To turn them into a deep, enduring passion, you need continuous positive feedback and encouragement, usually from parents or teachers or mentors.
So if a kid shows a slight interest in the violin, but no one ever supports the lessons or praises the small wins,
That interest usually just dies on the vine.
so it's not enough to just try something.
Mhm.
You need a supportive ecosystem that validates the effort, even when the results aren't great yet.
That encouragement provides the emotional scaffolding you need to get to the third most advanced stage, which is deepening.
This is what separates a hobby from a lifelong pursuit.
It is. To stick with something for years, especially after the novelty is gone, you have to deepen the interest. Duckworth says you must find a way to enjoy the nuances that only a true aficionado can appreciate.
It's no longer about the initial thrill. It's about mastering the tiny, intricate details of the craft.
Finding the old with a slightly new turn, as the psychologist William James put it.
The story of Jeffrey Gettleman, the Pulitzer-winning journalist, really illustrates this whole process.
It's a fantastic example. When Duckworth first interviewed him, she just assumed his passion was for journalism itself.
But that wasn't it.
No. Gettleman clarified that his long-term enduring passion was to live and work in East Africa. Journalism, while it fit his skills, became the means to that end.
So his passion wasn't the career, it was the place, the culture.
Exactly. His interest was triggered by a college trip to Tanzania. He developed it by studying Swahili and backpacking, and then he deepened it by realizing that journalism was the coherent, high-level path that could consistently keep him in that region, serving that ultimate, enduring purpose.
The path wasn't instant. It emerged and crystallized over years of disciplined choices.
It shows that real passion is a dynamic outcome. It requires exploration, development, and the commitment to align your daily efforts with that central curiosity.
So once that interest is developed, the second asset, practice, becomes absolutely central.
Right. Grit isn't just about logging more time, it's about logging better time.
This is where we get into the highly specialized concept of deliberate practice.
And this is the shift from being an enthusiastic amateur to being a methodical expert.
I think my own jogging is a perfect example of this.
The jogging analogy, yes.
Right. I've run thousands of hours in my life.
Oh.
I'm consistent. I have the perseverance part down, but I haven't gotten any faster in 10 years.
And that's because it's a habit, not practice.
It's a habit. I'm thinking about my grocery list, listening to a book. I'm generally comfortable. And the psychologist Anders Ericsson would say, my practice completely lacks structure.
That lack of structure, that comfort, and that lack of specific intention is the very definition of a plateau. Deliberate practice, as Ericsson defined it, is what separates experts from everyone else because it focuses only on working right at the edge of your current ability.
The stretch goal.
The stretch goal. It is supremely effortful, often mentally exhausting, and sometimes it's even painful because you are intentionally doing the hardest thing you can possibly do right now.
Let's dedicate some time to the 4 components of deliberate practice because they really challenge how we normally think about studying or training.
Okay. First, you have to have a clearly defined stretch goal. This is key. It's not, I want to get better at math.
It's, today I will solve these 10 specific problems in half the time it took me yesterday.
Exactly. You have to be trying to do something you can't quite do yet.
Second, it requires full concentration and effort.
Yes. We tend to practice while we're distracted. Experts, musicians, athletes, chess players, they find deliberate practice incredibly demanding. They often limit it to 3 to 5 hours a day because it is so cognitively taxing. You're just intensely focused on your weakness.
Third, you need immediate and informative feedback.
And that feedback has to be honest and detailed, and it often focuses on what you did wrong, the gap between your performance and the ideal performance. You have to constantly seek out criticism.
And fourth, which is maybe the most important for grit, is repetition with reflection and refinement.
You take that negative feedback, you adjust your approach, and you try again and again, repeating the small, mundane steps that eventually add up to real excellence. It's that cycle. Try, fail, analyze, try better.
Now, this whole concept of deliberate practice, effortful, analytical, focused on discomfort, it seems to be in direct conflict with the concept of flow.
Right. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's famous concept of that state of effortless, spontaneous immersion where challenge and skill are perfectly balanced.
So if flow feels effortless and practice is effortful, does that mean grit requires us to just endure a lack of flow for years on end? I mean, that's a huge psychological barrier. Why would anyone choose uncomfortable practice over pleasurable flow?
That's the intellectual tension Duckworth had to resolve. And Erickson himself was initially skeptical that deliberate practice could ever feel like flow. He thought they were maybe incompatible states.
So what was the resolution?
She found that gritty people do both. They engage in more deliberate practice and they experience more flow. They just don't do them at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Deliberate practice is the work you do to improve your skill. It is the hard, frustrating hours focused on weaknesses. Flow is the feeling you get when you perform that perfected skill effortlessly.
I see. So the feeling of flow is the emotional reward you earn through the sustained struggle of deliberate practice.
Exactly. It's the moment the training disappears and the performance just takes over. Think of the Olympic swimmer, Katie Ledecky. When she broke her world record in the 1,500-meter freestyle, she said it felt pretty easy.
That moment of effortless perfection, that flow state.
Was a direct testament to years of fierce, deliberate training, which often involved training with male swimmers just to push her comfort zone and maintain those stretch goals. The work you do in practice determines your capacity for flow and performance.
And the research even suggests that gritty people start to redefine their relationship with that discomfort.
Yes. Her study of National Spelling Bee finalists found that the grittier spellers not only logged more deliberate practice hours, they actually rated the practice as being both more enjoyable and more effortful than their less gritty peers.
That's a profound point. It implies that gritty people learn to love the burn.
They do. They derive this deep internal satisfaction, not just from the outcome, but from the process of struggle itself. They enjoy the challenge of meticulously breaking down a task, finding the weak points, and applying focus until they improve.
They value the thrill of getting better more than the comfort of staying the same.
So as we move up the hierarchy of what motivates us, we get to the third psychological asset, which is purpose.
And this is where effort and passion go beyond just self-interest. It's where they connect to something altruistic. The idea that what we do matters to people other than ourselves.
Purpose provides the moral and ethical scaffolding you need to sustain effort through incredible difficulty. If your only motivation is personal success or money, those things often buckle under real pressure.
But if your work serves a mission, a calling, you're much less likely to give up.
Much less. And Duckworth found that gritty individuals have a highly unified, incredibly disciplined goal hierarchy.
Okay, explain how this hierarchy works.
So at the very top of the pyramid, they have one ultimate concern, their life philosophy or top-level goal.
And this goal is big. It's altruistic, expansive, and enduring.
And she says it's written in indelible ink. All their low-level daily goals, like finishing a report or signing up for a class, those are written in pencil. They are flexible means to serve that one high-level end.
So if a gritty person hits a roadblock on a pencil goal, a project fails, a job application gets rejected, they don't quit the whole thing.
No, because that goal itself is flexible. They just erase that tactic, pivot, and try a new low-level goal because the top goal, the one in ink, is still stubbornly in place.
This is often reflected in how people see their jobs.
Right. Duckworth uses a framework from Amy Wrzesniewski that distinguishes between a job, which is just a necessity for a paycheck,
A career, which is a stepping stone for promotions and status.
and a calling, which is work that you feel makes the world a better place.
And the data is clear. Grittier people overwhelmingly view their work as a calling.
They find profound daily meaning as well as daily bread. They integrate their personal interests with a contribution to the greater good.
But it's important to understand how you get to that purpose, right? It rarely just starts as a calling.
Almost never. It usually follows the sequence we've been talking about. It starts with a self-oriented interest, then it moves to disciplined, deliberate practice, and only then does the work integrate with an other-centered purpose.
Purpose is often discovered retroactively, through consistent effort.
Exactly. The story of Michael Boehm, a professor of internal medicine, is a perfect example of this.
His interest began when he was a boy.
Just looking up at the sky and having this profound sense of opening, which later became a personal obsession with mindfulness and meditation. This was a purely self-oriented interest for decades.
And he became a doctor mainly for practical reasons.
Practicality and intellectual curiosity. So for years, his two major pursuits, mindfulness and medicine, ran on parallel tracks. They didn't really overlap.
Until when?
It wasn't until the 1990s, years into his medical career, that he had this breakthrough. He realized so many of his patients didn't just need another prescription. They were suffering from stress and anxiety that could be alleviated by the very thing he'd been practicing since he was a kid.
And that's when he integrated his personal practice with the purpose of helping patients.
At that point, His work truly became a calling. His highest level goal, written in ink, became unified. Use his skills to alleviate suffering. And the lower level goals, research, teaching, treating patients, all became flexible means to that single end.
You see this flexibility so clearly with Bob Mankoff, the legendary New Yorker cartoonist.
Fantastic example. His top-level goal was incredibly specific. Be among the best cartoonists in the world, specifically at the New Yorker. That was the ink.
But his path to get there was paved with failures. The pencil goals he had to keep erasing.
Massive failure. He tried stand-up comedy and quit because his humor was too abstract for the clubs. And most famously, he was rejected by the New Yorker 2,000 times.
2,000 times. Most people would have quit the top goal after, 100 rejections.
But instead of quitting the top goal, he just flexed the lower ones. He went to the library and analyzed every single cartoon the New Yorker had ever published.
He was doing deliberate practice on his rejection.
Totally. He studied 2,000 rejected cartoons and 2,000 printed ones to figure out the ingredients for success. And he realized two things. The cartoons had to make the reader think, and they needed a distinct personal style.
And that's when he developed his unique dot style, the stippling.
And he finally broke through. He was stubbornly committed to his high-level goal, but completely ruthless and pragmatic about ditching the tactics that weren't working. That ability to innovate the means while maintaining focus on the end is the essence of purpose.
Okay, let's move to the fourth and final asset, the one that really sustains all the others through all that failure. Hope.
And the kind of hope grit requires isn't passive. It's not wishful thinking.
Right. It's not, I hope things get better tomorrow.
It's an active, effortful expectation that our own efforts can and will improve the future. It's, I resolve to make tomorrow better. It implies agency.
And this is rooted in attribution theory, which Duckworth experienced herself when she was failing a neurobiology class.
Right. She failed the first quiz, then the midterm, and her advisor told her to just drop the class.
But her internal response was the key.
Her self-talk. Instead of concluding, I'm not smart enough for this, or I am permanently bad at this subject, she thought, I won't quit. I can figure this out.
She reframed the failure as temporary and specific.
And she aced the final and ended up with a B. That's a perfect demonstration of learned optimism.
And this idea comes from the work of Marty Seligman on learned helplessness, based on those famous dog experiments.
Right. Learned helplessness happens when a subject in the classic experiment, a dog getting shocks, experiences suffering that it perceives as uncontrollable.
So even when it's later put in a situation where it can escape, it doesn't even try.
It just gives up. It passively waits for the punishment to stop because it has learned that its actions don't matter.
And that fixed belief in the inability to control the outcome just destroys perseverance.
Learned optimism is the active, learn reversal of that. Optimists, when they face adversity, they habitually search for temporary and specific causes. They tell themselves, I mismanaged my time this week, or I didn't study the right chapters.
Because the cause is temporary and specific, the problem is fixable, and they're motivated to act.
The pessimist, on the other hand, defaults to permanent and pervasive explanations. They say, I screw up everything, or I'm just not smart.
And since the cause is permanent, their identity, and pervasive, it affects everything, there's no motivation to try harder. It leads straight to helplessness.
So this framing is absolutely critical to hope. Hope for a gritty person isn't a personality trait. It's a learned way of interpreting setbacks.
And this leads us right to Carroll Dweck's work on mindset, which provides the psychological mechanism for that interpretation.
Exactly. People with a fixed mindset believe that talent is static. You either have the right stuff or you don't.
And that becomes a huge liability when a setback inevitably occurs. A bad grade, a rejection letter. They see it as definitive proof they lack the required ability, and they give up.
But the growth mindset individual believes that ability can improve with effort and that failure is just feedback.
They see a C, not as a judgment on their worth, but as a signal that their current strategy isn't working and needs to be refined.
And Duckworth found a powerful correlation here. Students who measured high on the growth mindset scale were significantly grittier than those with a fixed mindset.
Growth mindset fosters optimism because failure isn't fatal. It's just another part of the deliberate practice cycle. And that optimism fuels perseverance.
Think about MacArthur winner Ta-Nehisi Coates and how he talks about his own process. He describes writing as just failure over and over again.
He said he sees the horribleness and terribleness of a draft, and the work is just refining that awfulness.
He views the process as cycling through failure, going to bed, and waking up the next day to refine it again, repeating that until maybe you get to good.
That is the ultimate example of the growth mindset fused with gritty hope. The willingness to embrace failure, not as a sign of being inadequate, but as a temporary step toward getting competent.
It's that active resolve to make tomorrow better, fueled by the belief that you have the capacity to learn and refine the skills you need.
So we've established the 4 internal assets of grit: interest, practice, purpose, and hope. But Duckworth's work shows that grit isn't just an internal thing.
No, it can be cultivated and reinforced by your external environment, starting right at home.
She outlines this powerful, really simple blueprint for developing grit called the hard thing rule, which she actually uses with her own family.
It's a fantastic practical model.
Let's detail that rule. What are the 3 core parts?
Okay, first, everyone in the family, and this includes mom and dad, has to be doing a hard thing that requires daily deliberate practice.
So it models commitment. It shows that effort is a family value.
Exactly. For her, it was her research and yoga. For her daughters, it was often music or a sport.
And the second part is crucial for teaching follow-through.
It is. You can quit, but you can only quit at a natural stopping point.
Meaning you can't quit on a whim, on a bad day, just because you lost a game or got frustrated.
You have to finish what you begin, whether that's the end of the season or when the tuition for the semester is paid up. It teaches commitment over a manageable time horizon. You learn that effort, even when it's painful, has to be sustained to a logical conclusion.
And the third part.
You get to pick your hard thing. And this is so important because it respects the individual's need to develop their own intrinsic interests.
Nobody can force genuine passion.
But they can enforce commitment once the choice is made. You select the activity, but the rules of perseverance are non-negotiable.
This approach leads right into the concept of psychologically wise parenting.
Yes. Duckworth found that grit isn't forged by harsh, authoritarian parents who just criticize, and it's not nurtured by permissive parents who offer support without challenge. It comes from the upper right quadrant of parenting, high support and high demand.
So it's not just carrot and stick. It's a synthesis of empathy and high expectations.
The story of the NFL quarterback Steve Young and his parents, Sherry and LeGrand, Grit Young, is the ultimate example.
His dad, Grit, really embodied the high demand part.
Oh, he did. When Steve wanted to quit football at BYU after sitting on the bench for years, his father gave him that famous ultimatum. You can quit, but you can't come home because I'm not going to live with a quitter.
That is high demand, a firm, non-negotiable standard.
But that demand was wrapped in this profound high support from his mother, Sherry. Earlier in his life, Steve had intense separation anxiety and refused to go to second grade.
And instead of forcing him, his mother sat in the classroom with him.
Every single day for weeks until he felt comfortable enough to manage on his own.
And that combination is transformative.
It is. The parents are strict about discipline, but they're profoundly sensitive and supportive of emotional needs. It sends the essential growth message. I'm going to hold you to a high standard, and I know you can do it.
And this philosophy of wise feedback, high expectations plus assurance of potential, it applies to mentors and teachers, too.
Look at the incredible story of Cody Coleman, who graduated from MIT with a near-perfect GPA despite growing up with incredible adversity.
He didn't succeed alone.
Not at all. He was transformed by his older brother, who constantly challenged his limiting beliefs, always asking why not, when Cody said a top school wouldn't take him.
And then there was his high school math teacher, Chantel Smith.
She created a complete ecosystem of support around him. She did way more than just teach math.
She paid for his driving lessons.
Paid for driving lessons, made sure he got resources, and most importantly, provided a stable family environment, welcoming him home for holidays.
It all comes back to that message.
That wise feedback, the explicit message that I'm giving you these comments because I have very high expectations and I know that you can reach them, that's the critical external ingredient that can shift someone from a fixed to a growth mindset.
And this support framework goes beyond just family and mentors. It extends to cultural reinforcement.
Right. Grit can be cultivated by cultures groups who share a consensus about how we do things around here and why.
The culture of Pete Carroll's Seattle Seahawks is a great organizational example.
A fantastic one. They live by phrases like, always compete and finish strong. And this wasn't an accident. Carroll deliberately studied Duckworth's work.
And the team's sports psychologist, Mike Gervais, explains that compete comes from the Latin for strive together.
It's about pursuing excellence and pushing beyond what you can do today, not just about defeating someone else. Their culture emphasizes that their opponents create challenges that help them become their best selves.
It's a shift from external comparison to continuous internal improvement.
It's pure grit applied organizationally. It means that even if you lose the game, if you stuck to the process and pushed yourself, the culture still validates your effort.
Another maybe deeper cultural example is the Finnish concept as sisu.
Sisu. It's a cultural self-conception that's incredibly close to grit, but focused purely on perseverance. It's like an inner strength or guts.
It's often defined as the determination to keep striving when all hope and resources are gone.
The famous historical example is the 1939 Winter War, where the Finns, vastly outnumbered by the Soviet military, held their ground for months longer than anyone predicted. Time magazine credited this resilience to sisu.
The power of sisu isn't genetic, it's psychological, it's a cultural narrative.
Exactly. Believing you are capable of overcoming tremendous adversity because your culture tells you that you have this inherent sisu leads to behavior that confirms that belief. The culture gives you the expectation to keep going.
And finally, we see the power of environment in extracurricular activities, which Duckworth calls these crucial playing fields for grit.
They're low-stakes environments where you can practice the high-stakes lessons of commitment.
There's research that backs this up.
Yes. Research by Margot Gardner followed thousands of teenagers and found that students who participated in extracurriculars for more than 1 year were significantly more likely to graduate college with honors and achieve leadership roles later in life.
And did the specific activity matter? Was debate club better than soccer?
Not at all. The content was irrelevant. The key was follow-through.
Just the willingness to sign up again the next year and make progress.
And that predictive power was stronger than both SAT scores and grades. It's West Point's WCS all over again, but for high schoolers.
Which suggests that these activities don't just select for gritty people, they actually build grit.
They do, by forcing you to practice commitment. This ties into the principle of learned industriousness from Robert Eisenberger.
Which is?
It shows that experiencing the connection between working hard and getting a reward teaches both rats and people to exert more vigor on unrelated, difficult tasks later.
You generalize the effort. You learn that discomfort pays off.
That's the profound value of the hard thing rule and these strong cultural environments. They create necessary friction and demand, and they teach you the fundamental connection. Perseverance isn't just possible, it's reliably rewarded. And that creates the self-fulfilling prophecy of a gritty life.
So, we've completed our deep dive into grit. And the core argument seems crystal clear.
It is. Success over the long haul isn't some magical genetic gift. It's a learned, systematic combination of these 4 psychological assets, fostered through intentional effort and supportive challenge.
We saw how interest has to be triggered and then developed over years of interaction.
How practice has to be deliberate, effortful, and focused on improving right at the edge of your comfort zone.
We saw how purpose provides that moral compass, connecting our work to something bigger than ourselves.
And finally, how hope relies on a growth mindset, on that optimistic self-talk that sees setbacks as temporary, fixable, and motivating.
You know, when Duckworth's father defined genius, he defined it as the ability to do great things without effort, the effortless natural.
But Duckworth offers this profound, really democratic alternative, a definition of genius that's accessible to all of us.
Which is?
She defines genius not by an inherent spark, but as working toward excellence, ceaselessly, with every element of your being.
That reframing turns the struggle itself into the source of greatness.
We can all adopt that philosophy. We can write our daily low-level goals in pencil and be ruthlessly flexible and pragmatic about how we chase them.
But we have to be relentlessly stubborn about our highest level aim, the one goal that provides all the meaning and direction, the one goal written in indelible ink.
And this leads us to the final provocative thought for you, the learner. Think deeply about that goal hierarchy we talked about.
What one professional top-level goal, a goal that serves a purpose larger than yourself, are you currently pursuing that you are willing to write in indelible ink for the next decade, committing to it no matter how many lower-level plans fail?
And crucially, What specific lower-level goals? What inefficient methods? What distracting side projects? What time sinks are you willing to erase completely and immediately? To pivot away from them in service of that singular, stubborn, long-term aim.
That choice, the active selection of focus and the rejection of distraction, is the true start of a gritty life.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
We hope this exploration empowers you to find your focus, fuel your effort, and embrace the powerful process of continuous perseverance.